Tonight I'm going to talk about our services at the CCAC. I'm not sure how many of you have had I don't know if it's a privilege of having the services of CCAC, because usually when you have our services it means that you had some injury in hospital or some hip or knee surgery, but has any of you been touched by the CCAC? Their family members you have? Okay. Yeah. So most people don't really know about us until they need our service, and at that time I hope we've been helpful to you. So I just have a couple of handouts. I have a 2-page summary of the CCAC with some quick facts. Sure, either now or after is fine. I also have a magnet that I'd like to hand out to each of you, which has some great information on it that I hope will be helpful. Let me tell you a little bit about the CCAC. So our service is really here to help people when they need care, to either heal at home after a hospital stay, or when home is no longer an option. And for those of you who have elderly parents, know that sometimes that can be a really difficult decision when you're trying to support your family members in their home, and when home is no longer an option, we're here to work with you to look at the different options available. And we're certainly, our first and foremost is to help people stay as independent in the community and in their home as long as possible. It's interesting now, for those of you who may have been in healthcare, I don't know in your career, but 10 years ago when you would look at someone in a long-term care facility, you don't see the same type of people in long-term care anymore. You know, even 5 years ago, you would see someone who may even go into long-term care right after a hospitalization because they just couldn't return home. And yeah, the sad part is, you know, they would go there and they would recover, but would have sold their home, you know, and sold their belongings and then couldn't go anywhere else. And we're really working hard in our community to make sure that people, before they actually make that big decision, that they have a chance to get home to restore, and that everything's done possible to keep them in their home as long as possible. Most people now who are in long-term care homes, you'll see, typically have dementia and Alzheimer's, but we're keeping a lot of people home in the community, which is where they wish to be. So we provide quite a bit of service for seniors, but surprisingly, most people think the Community Care Access Centre is strictly about serving serving seniors, but we actually serve quite a few adults and also children. We have one young lady who, Amanda, she's 10 and she's on our services, and she's been with us since she was about 1 year of age. And she was born a pound at McMaster University, stayed there for 1 full year. And when she came home, her parents needed some help, and we were able to provide her with some support and service. And actually a great story, her personal support worker who's been working with her for the past 9 years, so Amanda's blind and she's in a wheelchair, and she has a tube that helps to feed her. But the personal support worker saw that she really had a gift of musical talent, and taught her how to play piano when she was about 4 or 5, and she plays piano. And in fact, in June 25th, I'll just make a plug, we're actually doing a recognition event for Heroes in the Home, because we know that there's a lot of people who help their family members stay at home. And we're hoping Amanda will play her piano for us at that event with her personal support worker. So we do take care of children and really anyone who wishes to stay at home. We have quite a few people, when we receive compliments for our services, which we always love to get, are usually for those people who are in our palliative, and we care for quite a few people who are palliative, and especially those individuals, again, who'd like to die at home. Yeah, that's, we cover the range of ages. You can see on this diagram here, we're one organization that is connected to every single part of the healthcare system. So we work very, very closely with primary care providers. Our care coordinators connect in with primary care providers. We work very, very closely with the local hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and many, many community agencies as well. So aside from a primary care physician, we probably have the longest relationship with people in our community. Typically a primary care provider, physician, or nurse practitioner will be with someone for many, many years. And in our case, we do provide service to people over many, many years as well. And sometimes we come in for a short period of time, help someone get it better, and then they're back on their feet, and off we go, and off they go. And if they need our services again, we come back in. But we have, again, you can see the strong loop there, strong relationship with primary care. Typically for long-term care, our relationship with those facilities in our community is typically helping someone find that long-term care home that's most suitable for their loved one. And after they safely arrive to a long-term care home, we are no longer engaged with that, with the individual. But yeah, we have very strong relationships with other agencies. So our goal is really to, first of all, when we go in to help someone, it's to find out what their individual goals are. So typically it might be, you know, I just had hip surgery and I want to, in the next week or so, I want to walk down to that mailbox and mail that letter to my sister who lives in the States. I want to regain my independence. So we listen to everyone and find out what their individual care needs are. And then we really try to collaborate with the family. I had mentioned June 25th, we have a Heroes in the Home session where we're recognizing all the unsung heroes. We know 2/3 of home care is really provided by people, family members and loved ones in the community. We come in and we add in the extra support, but there's a lot of individuals. We were just brought CTV in to meet a couple by the name of Roy and Tamara. It'll be televised on April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and it's all about seniors care in the community. But Roy is 89 and Tamara is 91, and actually you'd be very interested in this. They've publicly provided us that we can tell their story. But Tamara came from an immigrant family, and she worked very hard. Anyways, over her years, she didn't get married until she was, I think, in late 60s to Roy. Anyway, she was the very first CFO at Wilfrid Laurier University, and she managed to balance the books at Wilfrid Laurier University for something like 15 years. No deficit, balanced books. Anyways, she's quite a trailblazer, a woman, and anyways, Roy, she's bedridden now, and Roy's committed to look after her, and we go in there to help with physiotherapy and personal support. Anyways, what an honor to meet a woman like that and to see the commitment of her husband caring for. I'm just going back to assessing individual needs for Roy and Tamara. It was really critical for Tamara that Roy be very much a part of her care. And Roy wanted to be part of her care, so we don't want to come in and take over. We just want to continue to help support Roy as best as we can, and so we go in and we give him a chance during the day to take off in the afternoon for an hour or two and, you know, head out, get some fresh air or pick up some groceries, and we also offer people time respite. So we know that care providers do get tired, you know, at times, and they need a bit of a break. So we organize respite, and there's beds in the community that we can help set that up. So our services, we service anyone from all the way in Dundalk, just way up there at the top, and through to, you can see the different areas on the screen. It's a bit hard, but go all the way to Pushlands, and we're as far over as Clifford on the left. Anyways, the reason for showing this to you is that you can see the large urban centers, which we are in Kitchener-Waterloo, but for someone who lives in a rural Wellington community, we want to make sure that they have the same equitable access to services, so that you're not disadvantaged if you're living in a rural community. So that's our commitment, is to make sure that individuals have the same type of service throughout. So there's 14 CCACs across the province. We're a not-for-profit, publicly funded organization, which means we have a board of directors. Our board it's a skills-based board, so our board members come with very specific skills that we look for. Some come with healthcare experience, and others come with private business experience or chartered accountants. But at this point in time, we are recruiting for our board, and we are looking for bright, intelligent people who want to give back to the community. And so just put a plug in there as well. It's We're a $124 million organization, so it's not a small organization by any means, but just an organization that does great work. We have approximately 400 staff. So the way that the Community Care Access Centers work is we have staff within our center, but we contract out our home care services. So we would work with companies like VON, Rivera, Pyramid, and they provide the actual direct care in the community. So when you think about our 400 staff plus all of the other staff within those agencies, it takes a lot of people to keep all of the residents in Waterloo, Wellington, if they need home care, well serviced. So it's quite a large organization. I just want to mention a few quick facts. So on any given day, we service 17,000 people in our community, and that's it always boggles me when I hear that. But that could be anyone, as I was describing Amanda to Roy and Tamara. And every month we help 1,000 people come home from hospital safely to their home and service them. And every month we work with people who have to make that difficult decision about going to long-term care, and we help them with that decision. And since 2009, we've helped 14,000 people find a family physician. And we know that that's very, very important for people to have a primary care physician to, you know what it's like when you go to the emergency department and you come back to your family physician and they say, geez, you know, I wish I would have known you were in the emergency department. And so at least we've got a family physician, but there's many people out there who didn't have or don't have a family physician. And that's tough because the best way that they get care is going to the emergency department, and we know that's not good for anyone to rely on that. So the key areas I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about is, so there's four aspects that we actually do. One is information and referral, and I mentioned I have a magnet for you. I'm really excited about this. This is a new initiative that we have, and so there's 14 CCACs across the province, covering off quite a large geography. And part of our mandate when we were set up through the Community Care Access Center Act in 2001 is that the Ministry of Health said, you know, it's really tough to find all the different services in our community, health and social services. It's quite fragmented. So we wanted the ministry really wanted one organization who would be responsible for helping people get connected to service. So information and referral is one of the important pieces of work we do. And this magnet here is called, you'll see here, www.healthline.ca. Across the province now, there are 14 specific sites like this in our local community. We have, as I mentioned, www.healthline.ca. It provides over 2,500 listings of health and social services broken down by geography. So you can see on the screen there, you can do a search. So in Kitchener-Waterloo, you could click on that green button, and it would provide you with all of the different information sources, such as all the healthcare facilities, any professional services, if you wanted specific services for seniors or women or youth, and also health-related topics such as end of life. And along the top you can see health careers, so we're really working with our local health partners to post those job postings there, as well as health news, health events, and a health library. So it's, we're really, really excited about it. And in fact, we're working with all of our local partners. So for instance, now I'm excited about this. There's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week helpline for anyone who needs mental health and addiction support. We know that suicide is preventable, and locally in Waterloo, Wellington, all the mental health and addiction services got together and said, you know what, we have to do a better job here coming together and working together. Now there's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week number you can call, and that's front and center on the front of this website. We also have a very clear button as well for people who want information on long-term care. There's a video there that talks about the process. So it's really aimed to help people be as independent as possible with information. It's like when you go and you book a trip. Sometimes people go and do an Expedia and book their trip right online. Other times people want to talk to someone to walk through it, and others like to do both. So not only do we have this site, but we also have a number of people can call 310-222. That takes you directly to the closest CCAC. So if you're calling from London, you would be connected right to your CCC there. And you actually talk to a live person who will help you work through your questions that you have regarding any health-related matters. So that's one aspect, is the information and referral. But we also have in-home services, so if someone needs help, I talked about personal support with Amanda and also personal support with Ray and Tamara. We have nursing support, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech language. Speech language is really important for those people who've had a stroke when they're coming home, whether it's to help them with their swallowing so that they don't choke, and also too to help them with their speech if they've had a stroke. Social work's pretty important. We as well find people having to make some tough decisions in their life, and we have social work there to help and support and nutrition. We help provide medical equipment if people need it in their home. And there are people who are seniors who don't have a drug plan, and they may need certain medications, so we work with them to get the medication they need. So we'll connect people up to the services in our community, Meals on Wheels, Friendly Visiting, Home Help. These services here, all of the other services that I talked about previously, the information and referral, and all of these in-home services are part of your OHIP plan. If it's deemed that you need nursing service, you don't have to pay for that. That's all covered under CCAC. But there are some services that there is a small payment. Meals on Wheels, for example, will connect someone if they need some support there, and there's a small payment for that service. But they also look at people's ability to pay too. So if they're not able to pay, they have some ways to waive that fee.
Tell us something about the friendly visiting?
Sure. So friendly visiting, there's 20 agencies in Waterloo, Wellington, community support service agencies, and friendly visiting is such an important role. So typically what they do is they recruit volunteers, and they try to connect people up with someone who has like interests. And that friendly visitor would schedule a time with someone that would work with both their schedules to come and spend time with them, whether companionship of playing cards or just talking about the news events or anything that's interest to that individual. Well, friendly visiting, you're right, friendly visiting is. Meals on Wheels is one where you have a co-payment or home help, but that's one that I believe is, there is no payment for that. One of the other areas we provide is specialized services, and as I mentioned, we often when we get compliments it's because of our palliative care support. So I'll use that as an example. On our palliative care team, we have a palliative care physician, we have a spiritual care provider, we have a social worker, we have a nurse, we have people who provide personal support. They provide that wraparound care for that family. We also go into the school and provide school support. We have quite a few young people who are diabetic in our schools, and we go in and work with the staff or work with that student. And again, mental health, this is new, but we have nurses, mental health and addiction nurses, who are now going into the schools, and we're starting to see, the teachers came forward and said, you know, we wish we'd have some support, especially in high schools, dealing with youth who have depression or mental health or addiction challenges. And so our minister had enough foresight to say, let's get some specialized nurses into the school to help those students, because at the end of the day, we just really, really want them to graduate, because we know, and we know that here as university prepared women, that you know, when you have your education behind you, it really, really helps. So those mental health and addiction nurses are doing some great work to help people succeed, youth succeed. We have other services called specialized senior services, and that's in particular for people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, and they just need that extra support. Maybe it's a memory assessment or a connection to a geriatrician, so we help get them connected. I love this picture. This is a picture of one of our palliative care coordinators, and she was actually involved in a video that we produced, and every time I see her in that picture, I always think she looks like an angel. She has that halo look behind her, but she truly is just an amazing woman. But we find that such a difficult time for people when we're working with them in those final days, but we have some great staff who do some amazing work. So I mentioned there's times where home is no longer an option for some individuals, and so there are different options out there for living arrangements, and one being a retirement home. Not everyone can afford a retirement home. It's a tenant and lease kind of arrangement where you actually have to pay for the service, but some people can. And for those individuals who can, and they can't really manage to stay on their at home, it's a wonderful option. There in retirement homes, we have quite a few of them in our community. You have housekeeping, you have medication delivery, and my father just recently moved into a retirement home, and I always think that it's too bad it's for people who are in retirement, because it sure is a nice life. He's quite enjoying it, but it's a wonderful option. So we also have services in our community. It's called the Integrated Assisted Living, and they're clustered senior buildings. And in those buildings or those neighborhoods, we provide 24-hour, 7-day-a-week care. So people have to be eligible for it, and they actually get a lifeline button. And so if they have a fall in the middle of the night, they can press that button as opposed to calling 911 and going to the emergency department. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting up in the morning. You have rheumatoid arthritis, you just can't get that bra on at the back, or you need some help, or something's happened that's frightened you. You can call someone, and so we're excited about that. It's not in every senior's building. Everyone asks, could it come in my building? But we have a targeted area that we cover. And then when those options, convalescent care. So this is another great service. Sometimes when people go into hospital and say they've had a hip or knee surgery, and they want to return home, but they can't quite yet. They're not well enough to. There are beds in our community, and Sunnyside have dedicated 10 rooms. And that's a place where people can go and truly convalesce. That means that they can go to that bed and receive that supportive environment, rehabilitate, and then get home back to their independence. So we again work with people to find that, to help them get connected. And respite care, I talked to you about this as well. So whether you live up in Dundalk, up in the rural Wellington area, or you're in Kitchener-Waterloo, you could have equal access to respite care beds for your loved one if you needed that break and you were caring for someone. There is a cost to that. It's $36 per day, and someone can stay up in respite care for up to 90 days. And when it's time to consider long-term care, we do have quite a few long-term care beds, long-term care homes in Waterloo, Wellington. Most of them are full. And so there comes a point in time where if long-term care becomes an option for someone, say in your family, you have to put your name on a list. And what's really important is you begin that conversation, because there is a wait for some. My mom just recently went to long-term care home Fairview in Cambridge. We went through this process personally, but it was kind of quite an experience being on the inside as a healthcare administrator and having my mother go through the process too, because it's very different, when experiencing that. But fortunately, she got into a wonderful home. We were in a position where she had to go onto a crisis list, because sometimes when you're waiting, and you're waiting for a year and a half, your condition changes, and there got to a point where it was, you could see my father starting to become more and more frail, and we had to put my mom on a crisis list. At that point in time, you really become quite high up on the list, and it doesn't take long to go in. Not everybody gets their first choice of a long-term care home. So the typical process is, what happens is you select a home. I'll just move to the slide here. So typically, our care coordinators will work with the family and encourage people to select up to 5 homes. So that's a matter of going out, having a look at the home, and putting those homes on the list. And then when a bed becomes available, the way it works is you have to then accept that bed. So it's, yeah, you wish that, you know, you could always get your number one home, but there's such a demand, and there's very, very clear regulations around this. So if a bed becomes available, you would accept that bed. You have 24 hours to accept. You have 5 days to move in. If it's not your preferred long-term care home, you can wait in that long-term care home until that bed becomes available and your first preference. Oftentimes we get asked, you know, why is that, Gloria? Why, you know, why can't I get my first preference or just wait at home? Typically when someone is going into long-term care now, as I mentioned, they really, really need to be in a safe place. We can manage to keep people at home for a long time, but there comes a point in time where it just isn't safe. So that's typically why, you know, somebody is, if they need to go in, they need to go in fairly quickly. But we do our very, very best to try to find the best option. We'll see situations where spouses are together and they live, say someone lives in, and again in rural Wellington, and bed becomes available in Guelph. And that wife or that husband, you know, is saying, I can't drive that distance in the wintertime. So we work hard to try to find the best option for the individual. We have very specific positions called placement coordinators to help with that.
If they're in a place that's not their first choice, and placement becomes available in another home, are they able to switch? Are they first on the list for the other home, or not necessarily?
If that home, say, they had 5 on their list and they went into the home that was their third choice, and say the second choice came available, they absolutely could move. They still stay on the list to move in. What we find is by the time you do your research and you start to identify, you know, the top 1, 2, 3 homes, when that individual gets settled into the home, some people don't want to leave at that point in time. There's some really good staff in long-term care homes, especially personal support workers who help that person feel comfortable. But there is always the option to move. So that's it. So that's about CCAC. So I'm happy to take any questions you have, and if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. There's the 2-pager here, and the Healthline. I encourage you to go on the Healthline.
Just to say how special it is when you come out. I had breast cancer, and I think it was you people who came out to change my dressings.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're so down, to have someone come in and do something you really don't feel up to doing, it's just so helpful.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad.
So you really need a lot of applause.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to change.
Thank you.
someone's
Yeah. Yeah, we have some great staff. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're there for you.
Can you just give us a quick overview of the kinds of services that are offered to people still in their homes?
Yeah, so we have, just go back here, so when we talk about providing care in the home, the first bullet there we have is case management or care coordination. So these individuals are regulated health professionals, so they would either be a nurse, therapist of some kind, whether an occupational therapist, physiotherapist, but they specialize in really understanding what the person needs, what their goals are, and listening and watching, so finding out what family support is available, what friends support is available, how independent is that person, and then they start almost creating that canvas of services that's most needed to help that person achieve that goal. And that's so critical. Like some people will say, you know, geez, I had CCAC and I only got 1 hour of nursing care. And yet they talk to someone else and someone else may say, I had CCAC, but boy, I ended up getting 10 hours a week. People say, oh, is that equitable? But the real magic of care coordination is trying to go in and determine what that person truly needs to meet their goal. Sometimes if you put too much service in, I hate to say this, but people become dependent on it. And our goal is to get people back optimal to their independence. So we could easily put Meals and Wheels in, but if Sally probably should be trying to make an effort to make her meal because we really want to see her making a meal to stay in our home. We're going to encourage Sally to try to make that meal. So that's a really critical service that goes in our home. And I mentioned personal support here, and that is individuals who come in. I think our personal support workers. Yeah, they're really special people. They come in, and oftentimes we find from family members, they'll even the story of Roy and Tamara. Roy said to me, my personal support worker for Tamara, she's like a daughter to me. She knows our family, she knows our routine, she knows us so well. They're non-regulated health professionals, but play such an important role to help people stay at home. And then, of course, nursing. It could be shift nursing. We find shift nursing is really important for those parents who are taking care of very, very sick children. Quite a few of our young children, Amanda's an example where parents are still working during the day, but at night they need a good sleep every once in a while, so we'll put in shift nursing to help with that. Physiotherapy, we'll have physiotherapy go into the home and help someone if they've had hip or knee surgery or a stroke. Occupational therapy is truly more about going in and assessing the home and the environment. So if someone has rheumatoid arthritis quite bad, you may have an occupational therapist go in and assess, what type of bars do they need in the shower? Do they need a seat in the shower? What about, the toilet? What about even in the kitchen? What are some of the gadgets that they may need? And I mentioned about speech language pathology and social work again. There's times where you're having to make some tough decisions in your life, and nutrition is important too. It's really something, when you provide home care, it's very different than when you're in the hospital. In the hospital, I don't think we're really truly who we are as people when you're in the hospital. You're in a hospital bed, you're in four walls, someone comes in, they kind of sometimes ask you your name, but other than that, you kind of feel like a bit of a number. But when you go home, it's truly when you're yourself, you're relaxed. And so when we go in someone's home, not every home is, easy to provide care in. And I again use Roy and Tamara, highly educated people, fairly well off. Their home is quite beautiful. Tamara, has her bedroom set up, and they open up a sliding door, and they have this beautiful garden. It's wonderful. But we provide care to people where they're at, and we also provide care to people if they don't have an address, and they're living on the street, or so the nutrition piece I just mentioned is so important because there's some times where we're trying to heal someone's wound, and we know they haven't eaten in 2 or 3 days, or they've had an addiction problem, and that's the last thing they want to do is have food in their fridge. They prefer to, and not a criticism, but that's truly where they're at. So we will provide service or try to help that individual based on where they're at. So, but I can't reinforce enough just how different it is when you're providing home care in someone's home. But what we know is people want to stay in their home as long as possible, and we know providing home care is better value for the taxpayer. It's cheaper. It really is. It's cheaper than a hospital bed, or a long-term care bed.